What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Ka, and this will be my second video. Like I've said before, I wanted to share some valuable information in regards to the baby bar exam, aka first year law students exam, and do my best to help you pass. But before I talk about a little bit about what you should do in order to pass this exam, I wanted to talk a little bit about whether or not this distance learning law school is worth going to. If you search on YouTube, there are different opinions on whether going to a unaccredited distance learning school is worth it or not. And obviously, depending on what your background is, you may say that it's worth it or it's not worth it. But I'm here to provide my perspective and my version of why I ended up going to a distance learning or unaccredited law school. So I don't know if I've talked about this in my first video, but I graduated from Davis, University of California at Davis, and I remember going to test masters towards my senior year, which was a preparation school to take the LSAT. I worked pretty hard because I remember this was quite a while ago. I think it was around 2010, or it could have been 2008, around there. So I went to test masters, and I think it was 3 hours per class. Could have been more, 2 times a week for about 3-4 months. So it wasn't easy. So I did this while going to college at Davis, and I took the LSAT. The thing about LSAT for me was, I don't want to say it was hard, but the way my brain works, I don't think my brain was born to do that kind of questions. I remember they tested on, maybe it's different now, but they tested on reading comprehension, a section on short paragraphs, a section on long paragraphs, and what we call games, which is basically testing you on spatial intelligence and basically knowing how to do puzzles, but more complicated versions. And I guess this is supposed to kind of foretell whether or not you'll be successful in law school. But then again, some people's brains, like mine, are not really good at that. As I've mentioned in the previous video, I'm better at creating things out of nothing and studying the system and memorizing and regurgitating was not my thing. But now that I realize this matrix system kind of wants you to memorize and regurgitate, so now I'm used to it because I figured it out. But back in the days, I couldn't figure it out. So my LSAT score wasn't that good. And once I applied to different law schools, I remember I didn't even apply to, you know, middle tier. I applied to bottom tiers and I didn't get accepted on all of them. I think I applied to like Whittier, Laverne, but you know, I didn't get accepted. So I took some years off after that, and I wanted to try again. So many years later, I took the LSAT again. But it still wasn't good enough. But at the time, I was going to a brick and mortar school, wasn't an ABA school. I believe it was something like California Accredited or some other language. I don't really remember, but they, I believe, required you to take the LSAT. So I tried to improve on my previous score. So I took it twice. And I ended up going to that brick and mortar school for about a year. And then they said I wasn't good enough. So while everybody else got to be 2L, I couldn't move on. But now that I think about it, maybe that was a blessing in disguise. All the people that went to that law school at the time with me are all attorneys now. And obviously, I'm many years late compared to them, but they're all attorneys now. Now, because I recently passed the baby bar exam, and now I'm enrolled in 2 classes. One is community property, and the other one is trial advocacy. And community property, if you're going to law school in California, it's pretty straightforward. You just have to memorize, and memorize more law and regurgitate using the facts at hand. And child advocacy is learning how to win in trials. So I'm back now, but the main thing I want to talk about is if you're thinking about going to a distance learning law school that's not ABA, I think you need to weigh some facts and know what you're getting into. First of all, if you're trying to graduate, let's assume that you passed the bar after 4 years of unaccredited distance learning law school, and you're applying to law firms using resumes. I'm not saying that's gonna be impossible, but chances are there'll be bunch of resumes from, UCLA Law School, Bolt Law School, Davis Law School, Stanford, Loyola, Southwestern. So it won't be easy to get those big law firm jobs. On the other hand, if you're like a person who already has a profession or a business or have a role in the government somewhere, I think that by making yourself eligible to take the California bar exam after 4 years and passing and becoming an attorney may actually help you, because it may open a lot of doors for you that wasn't open for you before. One thing that I'm realizing now, because I am talking to a lot of my classmates, is that the people that I'm going to school with now, because they're not college grads, they're not 28, 27, they're anywhere from 40, which is close to my age, to 65. I think one gentleman could be more than 65. So we have a wide range of people who are from different professions, and they've been in their professions for who knows how long, for 10, 20 years. So when I get into these role-playing roles, that's when in my trial advocacy class, one person role plays as a attorney and another person may role play as a client. And you talk to these people, they're amazing. I mean, I'm not taking away anything from, bright college grads who, did absolutely fabulous on their standardized testing, and they ended up, going to, number one top tier law schools. My hat's off to them. That's awesome. But the people that's been out doing their work for 15, 20, 25, 30 years, and then they're trying to do this at nighttime, go to law school at nighttime, and trying to become an attorney. I think there's a huge gap. It may not be a academic type of gap, but it's a gap that is more of of life experiences. And I mean, I have classmates now who are, they have great jobs, and I'm not going to talk about it, specifically, but, one guy was, doing stuff for the DNC, another guy is doing governmental stuff, and so on and so on. And these guys are like, like 50, 60. Like, I feel young, even though I'm like, more than 40, but if I feel young, think about the type of people that are going to this type of law school. So is distance learning law school worth going to? And in my opinion, I think that if, like me, you're just not a person who is good at standardized tests that claim to test you on your ability to become a great lawyer, but you're just not talented in that aspect, and you're more gifted in other things like, maybe speaking or thinking in another dimension that is not the type of intelligence that they're testing you on. Because in my opinion, I don't think that what they're testing you on specifically leads to becoming better attorneys. Meaning, I don't think there is this is just my opinion, but I don't think there is a linear relationship between being able to do well on LSAT and becoming a great lawyer. So I think that if you are willing to sacrifice 4 years of your life, which is a long time, and devote 4 years into literally just memorizing and knowing the law and knowing how to regurgitate it, I think it's a good thing or a great choice. Again, we are doing this knowing that we may not get those resume jobs who are from better law schools, but most of the people who are attending my law school especially know that already, and they're already professionals and have been doing their line of work for many, many years, and this is just another thing that they want to accomplish. So where they're coming from versus people who are fresh out of college, going to grad school, and trying to get those big law firm jobs are very, very different. So if you're like me or like my other classmates who are brilliant and thinking about attending a distance learning unaccredited law school, I say do it by all means, and don't let the name distance learning or unaccredited fool you into thinking that the people that you're going to be studying with are any less than people who are from or going to these top tier law schools, because I don't think they are. If anything, they're probably even more brilliant because they had 20 years or more of life experiences under their belt. So don't let that title fool you into thinking that going to a school that I'm going to is going to make you less of an attorney. I mean, right now, for 2 of my classes, I think our teacher to student ratio is around 15. I think it could be more. But when I was doing contracts and torts 10 years ago with the same law school, I think we had like 6 or 7. So if you're thinking about educational value, like if you're going to like a big law school like Bolt Law School, you may have a class where one professor is teaching 150 students or more. But in my case, it feels like tutoring, and our professors are probably just as good or even better than those top tier law schools. Because think about it, if they start giving credit to schools that are not paying these huge ABA fees, then the whole matrix system wouldn't work. They have to give credit to schools who call themselves ABAs and they pay their dues and pay these huge fees to maintain that status. It makes more sense for the organization to give them credit over non-ABA or unaccredited schools like mine. So people who say like, there are some people on YouTube that discourage people from attending schools like mine, but I already talked about our students. They're brilliant, and we have professors who are Harvard Law grads, and we have professors who are prosecutors now, professors who are public defendants now, professors who's worked for major corporations. So the level of educational value that you're going to get in comparison to big time law schools and the student teacher ratio that you're going to get is second to none. And it's a different type of law school experience because I've been to brick and mortar. It wasn't a big one, but it was a small to medium sized one. And even in that law school, a contracts class, I think we had like 50 or like something close to that. And when you have 50 students to one professor, it's not easy to really get to know each other. But when you have like 15 to 1 or 8 to 1 or 7 to 1, which is what my law school is, we all know each other and professors know you by name. And again, it feels like a tutoring session instead of a big lecture hall. Because I know I went to UC Davis, so in some political science class we had like 350, so I know what it's like to be in that type of setting. So don't think that I don't know what it's like to be in a classroom that big. But there's definitely advantages to going to a distance learning or unaccredited law school, because the education that you're gonna get is just as hard or even harder. They make you work. I'm working my ass off. Every day I've been studying because I'm trying to get ahead, because we have taken the baby bar and passed, because unless you pass you can't be a second year. And I think our last bar passage rate was 75%. So I think that's not as good as like Stanford, because like Stanford, I think it's like 98, 95%, even more, as far as I can remember. But um, I think it's higher than our bar passage rate, maybe higher than like Loyola, or Southwestern. I'm not really sure, but um, I remember looking at the chart and we were up there when you want to just talk about the percentage of people that pass. So yeah, if you're willing to sacrifice 4 years, do it. You know, and another thing is cost savings. You may have to pay like $150,000 over 3 years, and most people get loans. And even if you make $150,000 on your first year after law school, that's a lot of money, to pay off. But I believe our program is like close to $30,000 for 4 years. Actually, it's like no, it's $9,000 per trimester. So it's 4 years. So 9 times 4 is $36,000, and compared to like $150,000 law school tuition, it just makes more sense. And people who hasn't had real life experience working, they may not know that $150,000 is a lot of money to pay off. But if you've worked for 10 years or more, you know that saving $100,000 is like a big deal. So that's that. In my subsequent videos, hopefully I can talk a little bit more about why I ended up doing this, and if there's anybody out there who are struggling to make a decision on whether or not they should try this, because like me, maybe your LSAT wasn't high enough, maybe your intelligence is a little bit different from others. And again, I don't think that LSAT is a good way to test whether or not you're going to become a good attorney. I think, maybe a lot of people may disagree with me, but, that's what I think. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about whether you should create your own outline for your first year of law school, because that's what everybody will tell you when you first start law school. They're going to say, make your own outline, from the books that you read, and that's going to help you to pass your first year. But that is a bunch of baloney. I think it's a trap. I'm sure many people may agree with me, because that's what I used to do, and I failed for 3 years. So what you want to do is get a commercial outline. And I mean, I have probably like 6 or 7 commercial outlines for the 3 subjects that you're going to be tested on for your baby bar exam, criminal law, contracts, and torts. And every commercial outline is different. Some are worded very, very difficult. Some are worded better, easier to understand. So you may want to try a couple, because some outlines I can find for like $8. Plus shipping, it's like $14, $15. But I'm sure you can afford $15 for an outline. There are other outlines which you can buy on Amazon for your baby bar exam. They may be like 20, 25 bucks, but I would recommend you to get at least like two or three and just look over it and see if you can work with it. Again, the biggest trap that you're going to fall into during your first year of law school experience, if you have to take the baby bar, is that you have to create your own outline. That is a bunch of baloney, and that is a sure way to fail. If you want to fail, listen to that advice. If you want to fail, create your own outline, because that is a sure way to not be able to pass your first year or your baby bar exam. So get yourself an outline that you can work with. For example, like my tort outline was probably like 15 pages. Criminal outline, criminal law outline was probably, I think it was a little bit shorter, like 8 to 10 pages, and contracts was the longest, probably 17 to 18 pages. But in order for you to pass the baby bar exam, you literally have to memorize everything that the outline has on those three subjects. You may think that I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. I remember doing adaptive bar before, because I took the baby bar twice and I failed it the first time. The thing is, if you don't know the law and if you didn't memorize the law, no matter how many questions you do, you're not going to understand why A is the answer, for example, why B is the answer, because it just won't make sense to you. If you don't know the law, those answers and why those are right answers will not make sense. So, because now the baby bar is, they got rid of the essay portion, now it's just 100 questions. And people may think that, even my community property professor the other day said, we have people who has taken the regular baby bar. I think the essay should have been there. And, it was a little bit derogatory, kind of singling me out, saying, oh, you took the new version of the baby bar, and, we have other students who passed the regular version, which was essay and the 100 multiple choice questions. But, I wanted to say something, but I just held it in. But I think unless there was a correlation between how many people get the multiple choice sections right and how many people get the essay sections right, unless there was a correlation, meaning if people are getting like 70 on the essays, people are probably getting like 60 on multiple choice exams. Like me, I took the exam, and when I failed it the first time, my essay grades were good enough to pass, but my multiple choice was 50 out of 100, so I couldn't pass it the first time. So, I wanted to say, Professor, I disagree, because, my essay was good enough to pass, but my multiple choice was harder, because in order to get the multiple choice questions right, because they make it tricky, you have to know the law, literally memorize them word for word. And another good thing about passing the baby bar is that you know how to study for the regular bar exam. You know what surprised me the most was I'm already preparing for my bar exam. You know, I still have like 3 years ahead of me, but because I passed the baby bar exam, I know what to expect. And another thing is, I'm looking over, past bar exams already now on subjects like community property. And what shocked me the most was that I thought I was going to be tested on like 13 subjects or something like that, but I realized that they're only testing me on 5 essays. And those 5 essays could come from those 13 or 14 subjects, but it's just 5 essays. And for the baby bar, I had to write 4, before they changed it to multiple choice. And for the regular bar exam, you have to do just 200 multiple choice. And baby bar is 100, and I passed. So think about it. My first bar exam, baby bar exam, when I studied for it, I had almost at a passing essay score. But my MBEs were not good enough. My second baby bar exam, the essay portions were taken out, but now I know how to write those essays because I studied for them for the first baby bar exam, and I got the passing score for the MBEs. I think I probably got over 80 because on my practice MBEs I was getting 90s, 90 out of 100, or even more like 93. So for the real bar exam, they're gonna give you just 200. That's only 100 more, and you studied like hell for the baby bar exam for those MBEs, and you were given 100. So think about it. Just 5 essays. And you know exactly what to do. Like I said, for these new subjects that I'm learning, I'm just gonna have to, get an outline, memorize all the law word for word, and then write them, practice with them like crazy after you memorize the law. For the MBEs, gonna do exactly what I did for the baby bar exam. I did, like 1,500 multiple choice once. I did them again. I think I did it like 3 or 4 times until like I memorized, like how they word it. And before even looking at the answers, ABCD, I knew what the right answers were. So you kind of get a feel for it. Like you kind of anticipate what they're going to ask you, and they ask you that exact question. If you've done so many MBEs, then you'll know what I mean. Like if you keep doing them again and again and again, when that question comes to you, then you'll know exactly what you have to choose for the right answer. So I hope in this video, if you're one of the persons who have been struggling to decide whether or not you should even try this unaccredited law school thing, do it, but don't think that it's going to be easy, because I'm back now and I'm spending like, I don't know, like 7, 8, 9 hours every day just researching, trying to understand concepts, and just memorizing like crazy, because as soon as my 4th year is finished, I'm not gonna take any break. If the bar exam is a month or 3 weeks after my 4th year, I'm gonna just register and take it. That's my goal. So that's why now, and I don't want to cram. So that's why now I'm just memorizing, for example, community property law, and I'm already looking at every single essays, you know, past exams that were tested on this subject, and I'm gonna do that for, you know, con law and wills and trusts, you know, criminal procedure. I'm gonna do that for every single subject. So I hope this was another useful video for you. And somebody asked me whether or not I can tutor, and I think I can, you know, especially if you're looking to pass the baby bar exam, and if you need some coaching, let me know. And but let me know if you're serious, because there's so many people, you know, I don't know if they're bots or like I don't know what they are, but you know, let me know you're serious, and maybe we can set up a time to talk about it and find a way to help you out so you can pass this exam. All right, so hope this was helpful, and until next time, I'll talk to you soon.